The story of D-Day is filled with countless acts of heroism, but few are as moving as the tale of medics Wright and Kenneth Moore. These two brave soldiers parachuted in Normandy as part of the 101st Airborne Division. Amidst the chaos and relentless fighting, they transformed a small church in Aigueville-au-Plomb into a life-saving aid station, treating both American and German soldiers. They upheld their duty to save lives in the face of unimaginable challenges. Their courage and compassion left a lasting legacy that still resonates today. That's why in today's video, we'll delve into the incredible story of these two medics, exploring their courageous actions, the challenges they face, and the lasting impact of their selfless service. And without much ado, let's get started. The invasion. In the early hours of June 6, 1944, the Allied forces commenced the historic D-Day invasion, a critical turning point in World War II. Among the brave paratroopers were Wright and Kenneth Moore, medics from the 101st Airborne Division. Their mission was to provide medical aid to the injured amidst chaos of the invasion. As their planes approached the drop zones over Normandy, Wright and Moore prepared themselves for the dangerous descent into enemy territory. Wright was one of the first to land. After a harrowing descent under heavy enemy fire, he made his way through the dark, chaotic landscape of Normandy. Wright found his way to the small village of Aigueville-au-Plomb, where he discovered a 12th century church, recognizing its potential as a makeshift aid station. He entered the church and began to pray, ready for the daunting task ahead. The church's ancient walls offered a semblance of sanctuary amid the surrounding turmoil. Shortly after, Kenneth Moore landed and navigated through the battlefield to join Wright at the church. Despite the danger and confusion, the two medics greeted each other with relief and quickly began discussing their plan. With little time to spare, they assessed their surroundings and gathered their medical supplies, ready to turn the church into a haven for the wounded. The situation outside was dire. Paratroopers were scattered and many had landed far from their intended drop zones. The village and its surroundings were a chaotic mix of Allied forces, German defenders, inevitable casualties of fire. Wright and Moore could hear the relentless sounds of gunfire, explosions, and cries for help. They knew that every moment counted, and they had to act swiftly to save lives. Despite the initial chaos, Wright and Moore began by clearing space inside the church, moving pews to make room for the incoming wounded. The medieval structure with its thick stone walls provided some protection from the ongoing battle outside. With their sanctuary established, what followed was a test of their resolve as the first wave of casualties arrived, bearing the period marks of war. First wave of soldiers. Now the first wounded soldiers began to arrive, brought in by fellow paratroopers and some making their way to the church on their own. Wright and Moore immediately set to work, treating injuries ranging from gunshot wounds to shrapnel damage. Their efforts were relentless, driven by commitment to save as many lives as possible. The church quickly filled with the sounds of moans and cries, mixing with the distant echoes of war. As the day progressed, the number of injured soldiers increased. Wright and Moore worked tirelessly. They applied bandages, administered morphine, and performed surgeries, all while under the constant threat of enemy fire. The medics barely had time to think as they focused on the immediate needs of each wounded soldier. Throughout the day, Wright and Moore made several trips outside the church to retrieve more wounded. Each journey was perilous, with bullets whizzing past and explosions rocking the ground. During one such trip, Wright came across a severely injured German soldier. The soldier's leg was badly wounded, and he was barely conscious. Wright did not hesitate. He lifted the German soldier into his wheelbarrow and carried him back to the church. Inside the church, the presence of a German soldier caused a stir. Some of the wounded Allied soldiers were initially shocked and angered, but Wright's actions set the tone. He treated the Germans with the same care and attention he gave to his fellow Americans. Moore supported his colleagues' decision, understanding their duty as medics transcended national boundaries. As word spread about the medics' efforts, more Allied soldiers found their way to the church, some even offering assistance. Officers who visited the church were struck by the scene inside. They saw the dedication of Wright and Moore working tirelessly to save lives, and some even offered additional support to ensure the medics could continue their vital work. As the shadows lengthened, the line between friend and foe blurred, leading to an unprecedented moment of unity in the midst of chaos. Alliance with the Germans. At dusk, the situation in Aigueville-au-Plomb grew increasingly desperate. The 101st Airborne Division faced intense German counterattacks. The strategic decision was made for the 101st to retreat temporarily to regroup and reinforce their positions. This retreat, however, meant leaving behind the severely wounded who couldn't be moved. Wright and Moore chose to stay, determined to continue their life-saving work despite the impending danger. The retreating American forces left the village to the advancing Germans, who quickly recognized the church as an aid station. The medics' reputation for treating all wounded, regardless of nationality, had spread. The Germans, respecting the sanctity of the church and neutrality of the medics, began bringing their injured to Wright and Moore. This collaboration was unprecedented and demonstrated the shared humanity amid the brutality of war. German soldiers, including officers, would carefully bring their wounded into the church, laying down their weapons at the entrance as a sign of respect and adherence to the medics' no-weapons policy. Inside the church, Wright and Moore worked tirelessly, treating the German wounded with the same care and dedication as they did their American comrades. The supplies were dwindling rapidly, but the medics made the best of what they had. They innovated and adapted, using whatever materials they could find to stabilize and treat injuries. The German soldiers, seeing the dedication and impartiality of the medics, began to assist in small ways, providing what little they could to aid their efforts. But as we'll see, even in the darkest hours of conflict, fate held a dramatic twist for those sheltered within the church's ancient walls. The Mortar Miracle. As dawn broke on the second day, the situation in and around Angevin-au-Plain had grown increasingly dire. The church was now overflowing with casualties. The relentless fighting had resulted in a steady stream of wounded soldiers, both Allied and German, seeking refuge and medical care within its ancient stone walls. The sheer number of injured men meant that the medics had to make difficult decisions about who could be saved and who could not. Outside the church, the battle raged on. As the Allied troops regained the town, securing the area around the church became a priority as the day progressed. Allied forces worked to push back the German troops, gradually gaining control of the village. As the battle for Angevin-au-Plain continued, the small church, serving as the aid station for medics Robert Wright and Kenneth Moore, faced a new threat as incoming mortars from the Germans brought a new level of danger. The relentless combat between American and German forces placed the church in the crossfire. The medics were accustomed to the sounds of war, but the incoming mortars brought a new level of danger. The church, filled with wounded soldiers from both sides, was suddenly at risk of becoming a casualty of the ongoing conflict. One afternoon, a mortar shell crashed through one of the church's stained glass windows, landing on the floor among the wounded. The shell skidded and rolled, coming to a stop in the middle of the church. For a few agonizing seconds, everyone in the church froze, eyes locked on a deadly device that had the potential to annihilate them all. Miraculously, the mortar shell did not explode. This incredible stroke of luck saved the lives of everyone inside the church. Had the shell detonated, it would have destroyed the building and killed the dozens of soldiers and medics within. Realizing the immediate danger posed by the unexploded shell, Robert Wright acted swiftly. He carefully picked up the mortar and quickly threw it outside the church, disposing of it safely away from the injured. The story of the faulty mortar round quickly spread among the troops, further cementing the reputation of the two medics as heroes. The church, already a sanctuary amidst the war, now carried the additional significance of miracles. End of the battle. During the final days of the battle, the flow of wounded seemed unending. Wright and Moore worked around the clock, barely pausing to rest. The small team was stretched to its limits, but they persisted, driven by a deep sense of duty and compassion. They faced a constant shortage of medical supplies, improvising with whatever materials they could find. The villagers, recognizing the critical work being done, offered what help they could, providing food and supplies. The relentless efforts of the 101st Airborne eventually paid off. With grit and determination, they managed to push the German forces out of Angevin-au-Plain, securing the village. The recapture of the village marked a significant victory in the larger battle for Normandy. By the end of the battle, the church had treated nearly 80 wounded soldiers. Remarkably, all but 2 of the soldiers survived their injuries. This extraordinary survival rate was a testament to the skill, dedication, and compassion of Wright and Moore. Their tireless work under unimaginable conditions saved countless lives and provided a glimmer of hope amidst the brutality of war. Today, the church remains a place of remembrance. Stained glass windows commemorate the bravery of Wright and Moore, and a plaque honors their contributions. Visitors from around the world come to pay their respects, moved by the story of two medics who, amidst the horrors of war, chose to uphold the highest principles of their profession. So what do you think about the incredible story of Robert Wright and Kenneth Moore? Would love to hear your thoughts on their actions. Comment below if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this.